101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 27th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 19 degrees in Ottawa. It's 21 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. Light rail will be back on track at least by Monday, OC Transpo officials saying. However, the service schedule will look different. With the details, here's City's Sarah Krukal.
During a press conference yesterday afternoon, OC Transpo officials announced that light rail service will resume on Monday, but with fewer trains that have single cars only. To start, there will be 8 trains on the Confederation line, translating to service roughly every 7 to 8 minutes. OC Transpo General Manager Renee Amilcar says OC Transpo is changing its maintenance schedule, inspecting axle assemblies more often.
The leading and trailing bogie axles will be replaced every 60,000 kilometers.
Amilcar added that the current schedule could be in place for a few weeks. Replacement buses will continue running as LRT trains gradually return to the tracks. Sarah Krukal, City News.
Now, voters have 6 candidates to choose from in the Canada-Carleton by-election. Polls are open until 9 tonight. The riding looking to replace former MPP Marilee Fullerton after she resigned in March of this year. For more information on the candidates and where you can vote, head to our site at ottawa.citynews.ca. City News time, it's 10:02. Now checking in with your weather for today. Here's our weather specialist, Denise Andriachi.
We will have sun and cloud this afternoon, the wet weather subsiding, at least temporarily. We are pretty clear into this evening and overnight, down to lows near 20. Cloudy with sunny breaks and the chance of showers and very strong storms late day Friday. So we're going to be keeping an eye on the radar as high heat and humidity is back in the forecast, near 30 tomorrow, feeling like 40. Our guaranteed high today, seasonal, 27.
19 degrees right now. It's 21 in Smiths Falls. Ukraine has signaled that it will no longer bar its athletes from competing against Russians who call themselves neutral athletes at sporting events. Our Rajesh Dave is following the details.
Ukraine says its teams and athletes will only be required to boycott events if competitors from Russia and Belarus are competing under their national flags or other symbols. But if there's no allegiance being shown to either country, their athletes can compete. The change in policy could make it simpler for Ukraine's Olympians to take part at next summer's Paris Games. Ukrainian athletes previously boycotted all events that allowed Russians and Belarusians to take part, even as neutral athletes, the preferred term of the International Olympic Committee. The IOC is in favor of allowing Russians and Belarusians to compete as neutrals at Olympic qualifying events, but still recommends banning both countries from team sports and excluding athletes from both countries who are contracted to the military or security forces. For Rajesh Dave, City News.
And the luxury clothing company Canada Goose is getting into used clothing market, the recycling items with an eye on the environment and lowering price for consumers. Mike Apple reports now from the City News Business Center.
Canada Goose describes its new program as Re-commerce. The official branding is Generations, a platform that allows consumers to shop for and trade in pre-loved pieces from the brand, including those typically high-priced parkas and snowwear. Trade-ins get a Canada Goose gift card, while it offers lower prices to shoppers catering to the second-hand market. The resale market has seen a surge in popularity in this high-inflation economy, with shoppers searching for bargains, specifically younger consumers. Retail stats showing 80% of consumers under the age of 30 shop for pre-loved goods, leading to a wave of growth for companies like Savers Value Village and Talese. Canada Goose Generations program has been going in the U.S. since January. The company says about 60% of the trade-ins it's received were parkas. About 53% were deemed to be in excellent condition. Mike Apple, City News.
And I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Good morning.
morning, Ottawa. Welcome to the Sam Laprade Show. My goodness, only 2 days left for Derek here. Derek Fage, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, filling in for Sam. Sam will be back next week. She's been on vacation, enjoying some fun and sun with her beautiful daughter, but she will be back in this seat on Monday. In the meantime, we still have the same great content you always expect here on the Sam Laprade Show, even sans the Sam part of the Sam Laprade Show. What are we talking about? Well, of course, talked about this yesterday. I won't go into too much detail on it, but we have, a cabinet shuffle, right? A cabinet shuffle. My goodness. Does anyone really care? Well, we do here at City News. It's big news for us. Many of you that tune into our shows, Wake Up with Rob Snow, the Talkback Hour with David Smith, the Sam Laprade Show. You expect us, of course, to be talking some politics. We'll talk a little bit about that during the lunch hour, but just briefly, Cabinet Shuffle, the Prime Minister kept some heavy hitters. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland remains in her position. Innovation Minister François-Philippe Champagne remains in his position, and Foreign Minister Mélanie Joly. They will continue in their profiles. There were some other changes, of course, as you know, quite a few. It's one of the biggest shuffles I can remember in recent times. I'm not even sure I'd call it a shuffle. It was like a complete overhaul. A lot of new faces in there as well. What did we hear from others? Well, the Conservatives party. Leader Pierre Poilievre called the shuffle evidence of the Prime Minister's failures. He said, quote, Justin Trudeau may have fired many of his cabinet ministers today, but he's just as out of touch as ever, doubling down on his inflationary high spending and high taxing ways. That's what he said in his statement. He said he let go of the wrong ministers. He should have let go of the Prime Minister. You get what he did there? Yeah. Timing of the next election, I would say unclear. Trudeau said to reporters yesterday, we expect to be able to govern for a couple of more years. So that could mean till 2025. But there are rumors, we talked about that on yesterday's show, that maybe we could see an election in 2024. New Democrat leader Jagmeet Singh was asked about Trudeau's comments on that. And he said about an election, possibility of an election, he said, we are focused on getting results for people, not forcing an election. And why would he, quite frankly? They've been able to put through some of the things that were high on their agenda. What else is happening in and around the city of Ottawa? LRT. Yes, still down, but we do have some updates. The latest is that we have to replace the entire axle assemblies or hub assemblies, however you want to call them, every 60,000 kilometers. So just so we all understand this, we've gone from inspecting them every 50 to 60,000 kilometers to completely replacing them every 60,000 kilometers. We will actually have to replace the entire axle assembly for our trains. What is service going to look like? So there's a gradual return to service, which is going to begin Monday with 8 trains being used. We have 45, just a reminder, 45. 8 trains will be used. Riders will be on single car trains instead of double to begin with. R1 bus service will continue to run. 8 single-car trains will serve all stations on Line 1. They're saying approximately every 7 to 8 minutes, from my understanding. R1 bus service continues in parallel with that Line 1. OC Transpo staff, they say, will continue to help customers at key stations. And the Transit Operations Control Center will be closely monitoring passenger volumes at stations. General Manager Renee Amilcar, what did she have to say? She says, this fleet size in combination with the ongoing R1 bus service will provide the capacity required to meet current customer volumes. This temporary single-car train configuration enables OC Transpo and RTG to manage the supply of rail vehicles while meeting the more frequent inspection and replacement regime in order to ensure the sustainable delivery of service. She went on to say OC Transpo and Rideau Transit Group conducted a risk assessment and confirmed that since the system was originally designed to accommodate both single and double car train operations, there are no additional risks to customer safety at station platforms. So that's where we stand there. What else is going on in the news? I don't know if you heard this. My good friend Rob Snow on Wake Up with Rob Snow talked about this. We're trying to get somebody on the show today, but regardless of whether we get them on the show or not, we're going to discuss a little bit about this. A former military intelligence officer turned whistleblower told House lawmakers that Congress is being kept in the dark about unidentified anomalous phenomenon known as UAPs or UFOs. I'm going to use UFOs because that's the term I think most of us are used to hearing, alleging at a hearing that executive branch agencies have withheld information about the mysterious objects for years. So is this gentleman in front of, as part of this hearing, is he credible? I mean, I saw the video footage. He seems very credible. His name is David Grush. He served for 14 years as an intelligence officer in the Air Force and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, appeared before the House Oversight Committee's National Security Subcommittee alongside two former fighter pilots who had firsthand experience with UFOs. Grush served as a representative on two Pentagon task forces investigating UFOs until earlier this year. He told lawmakers that he was informed of a multi-decade UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. Try to wrap your head around that. He later said he had interviewed officials who had direct knowledge of aircraft with non-human origins and that so-called biologics were recovered from some craft. I mean, this is wild testimony. In addition to Grush, the panel heard testimony from a former Navy pilot. His name is Ryan Graves, who has spoken out about encountering UFOs on training missions, and David Fravor, who spotted a large object captured in the now famous Tic Tac video during a flight off the coast of California in 2004. All three witnesses said current reporting systems are inadequate to investigate UFO encounters, and said a stigma still exists for pilots and officials who press for more transparency about their experiences. Graves was an F-18 pilot stationed in Virginia Beach in 2014 when his squadron first began detecting unknown objects. He described them as dark gray or black cubes inside of a clear sphere where their apex or tips of the cubes were touching the inside of that sphere. He said a fellow pilot told him about one incident about 10 miles off the coast in which an object between 5 and 15 feet in diameter flew between two F-18s and came within 50 feet of the aircraft. He said there was no acknowledgement of the incident or way to report the encounter at the time. The testimony goes on for quite some time. It's pretty wild stuff. I mean, I think a lot of us just watched with such intense curiosity. Here's the last I'll say this. So I'll go back to this this pilot, Graves, Ryan Graves, former Navy pilot. This is what he had to say. If everyone could see the sensor and video data I witnessed, our national conversation would change. I urge us to put aside stigma and address the security and safety issue this topic represents. If UFOs are foreign drones, it is an urgent national security problem. If it is something else, it is an issue for science. In either case, unidentified objects are a concern for flight safety. The American people deserve to know what is happening in our skies. It is long overdue. So we're trying to get an expert on this a little bit later on the show just to discuss this. A lot of sightings in this country too, by the way. I mean, we're talking like thousands of sightings. Here in the Ottawa region, a number of sightings over the years. So we'll try to get some statistics on that. If we can't get the expert on, we'll do some of our own research and bring that to you a little bit later on in the show. As I said, we have a fantastic show, excellent content for you as usual. But right now, I need to take a break. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
I'm Nicole Martin, the proud ambassador for the Comfort Bear program. Comfort Bears provide these cuddly bears to local children who are terminally ill, facing trauma, or battling a serious illness. Every $20 donation will place a Comfort Bear into the loving arms of a child involved in our program. It is our hope to distribute 1,000 bears in 2022. Please join us and provide comfort to kids in their time of need.
Johnny wanted to go back home. It was 1,000 kilometers away. They forced him to go to the Indian residential school. More than 150,000 of us children had to go. They wanted to change us.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name.
Hallowed be your name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done. Kill the Indian and the child. It's been called cultural genocide. I survived residential school. My brother Johnny did not.
Chani Wenjack was one of thousands of children who died due to Canada's residential school system. More than 80,000 survivors and their families still live with its legacy today.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Sam is off for a couple of more days. She'll be back Monday. Derek Fage here from Rogers TV filling in. Oh, you know him. You recognize his voice. He's here each and every day taking your calls. David Smith joins me from the Talk Back Hour. And today, let's talk about today's topic, David. What was today's topic?
Well, I've got politics on the brain today, Derek. I've got politics on the brain. I fought it hard all week. I know, we talk a lot. We talk about as much when it comes to a cabinet shuffle about what's happening with the cabinet shuffle, and then we spend equal time talking about how nobody cares about the cabinet shuffle. This is
Except us.
A time-honored ritual in Ottawa media, but today I have it on the brain. The cabinet shuffle came and went yesterday, not getting good reviews in the media at all. It is getting panned in every opinion comment section, every national news media outlet, even the reliably liberal Toronto Star and the CBC News, the public broadcaster, their analysis piece this morning, not exactly kind to the Trudeau government.
I'm not going to say I'm going to be very kind to the Trudeau government either, to be honest with you.
So basically, first of all, why did they do a cabinet shuffle? Well, it was an attempt to acknowledge, at least, have some self-awareness that they're way down in the polls, and most people are not happy with the Prime Minister specifically, and people aren't happy with the government's performance as a whole. So they were trying to recognize that for the general public. They were trying to send a signal, hey, we've heard your complaints. So we're going to have this huge
New
shakeup.
faces.
New faces.
Let's get rid of the veterans and bring in a bunch of rookies who have no idea what they're doing.
A real refresh was what they were trying to bill this as. The Observer, it has not landed with observers. But all that to say, to bring it back to the Talk Back Hour today, okay, why did they do the cabinet shuffle? It's because they're trying to stave off the eventual exercise that will be an election. They don't want to prorogue. They don't want to call an election. What's left? It's a cabinet shuffle.
And we know why they don't want to call an election right now, because they're so far down in the polls.
Far down in the polls. It was an unhappy coincidence for the Liberals yesterday that this new Abacus data poll comes out that shows they're 10 points behind Poilievre and the Conservatives. 10 points, Derek. Haven't seen polls like that
huge.
In ages. But that's an interesting number to look at.
Okay.
Another interesting number, besides vote intention, is desire for change. This is something else the federal pollsters look at. Desire for change. Do you want to see a change in the government? Right now, 80%. 81% actually of the people they survey say, yes, I would like to see a change in government.
So that could mean, though, that could also mean Trudeau steps aside, somebody comes in, or another party gets elected, right?
We could have a bloc NDP coalition. Not ever going to happen, but it's on the tip. But so of these 80% of people who say, I would like to see a change in the government, only 50%, only half of them say, I know who I'm voting for. The other half say, I don't think there's a good alternative right now. So if it came down to it, I would probably go back to the Liberal Party. So I asked the listeners.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay,
I asked the listeners today for some feedback on Pierre Poilievre as the alternative. Pierre Poilievre, Prime Minister in waiting, is PP ready to be PM?
Right.
And got totally mixed reaction on the phones today.
Like, what is it, a 50-50?
Like 50-50.
Really?
Almost like I've recreated the national poll on the Talk Back Hour.
Right.
So what do you think? Do you see Pierre Poilievre as being a Prime Minister in waiting? Does he seem ready to take on that job to you?
I've been honest. Especially talking to Rob, I'm not a fan of Pierre Poilievre. I don't like the way he presents himself. I find he's very childish in the way that he talks about the Prime Minister and boosts himself up. Does he have a likability factor for Canadians? I don't think so. But guess what? I also don't think that likability is going to be very important in the next election, because I think there's political fatigue in this country. And I believe Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has gone down a path of where he seems to be, he stuck himself into a one-issue Prime Minister. And he won't back off on it, regardless of how people are struggling in this country. So I don't think Pierre Poilievre is the right person to lead this country if we're looking for new leadership. However,
right now or at all? Right now or at all? Okay. I think there might be two camps emerging. I think there might be the never Poilievres, which you're leaning towards, but then there's also people who just want to give him some time to mature as a leader of that party, to come into his own. That party's been through 3 leaders now in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Scheer, O'Toole, Polyev. Some people want to just feel him out, see where he's taking the party.
I'll just finish with this. I don't think he's got the likability, personality-wise, but issue-wise, I think he has the likability. People are struggling. They're talking affordability. They're talking housing and interest rates. And people become very selfish when they go into the voting booth and they look down and look at all of these leaders and what's going to stand out. How much more money will I have in my pocket to pay for the necessities of life because I'm having a real hard time paying my rent and my groceries and fuel costs and public transit, whatever you're taking. Everything's costly right now.
Yep.
So I think that's what it could come down to.
And the polling also shows, on the economy, cost of living and economy, number one issue, has definitely solidified itself, even above healthcare is the number one issue. And all of the latest polls, there was one just this week, I think the number was 57%, see the Conservatives as being more credible on the economy compared to the government of the day. That's a tough number. Yeah. That's a tough number. But again,
obvious.
We go back to the cabinet shuffle. The point of that exercise was to reassure Canadians this government is hearing the concerns and shifting its focus. Who didn't get shuffled yesterday? Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne and the Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland.
Yeah.
So the two ministry portfolios that deal with the economy specifically stayed exactly the same.
The two people that have been communicating to Canadians of what they are doing to help Canadians, which I think most Canadians think is very little. I know we had the grocery rebate, but an individual at $32,000 and less, and then a family at $38,000 and less. Where did they come up with that number? If you are a family household making under $38,000, holy cow. You are really struggling. Like, I was so shocked to hear that number was that low. I would have thought they would, a family household would have started $50,000 and less. $38,000.
There are people out there that make it work.
Oh, yeah, I know they do, but my
another
goodness.
point of criticism on that benefit was that 38,000 threshold was for the maximum amount, but they gave it out to millions of people who make all the way up to, for an individual, $51,000 a year. Why not test it more? Give more money to the people who really, really need it.
I just don't get it. I just don't understand how they seem to be completely out of touch with Canadians, and they better turn it around quick. And I don't think a cabinet shuffle is what's going to turn it around.
People aren't buying it. That's what I'm hearing on the phones today here at City News. People not buying the point of the cabinet shuffle, but also not ready to jump on the Pierre Poilievre for Prime Minister train with both feet. So that's where we're at, July 2023. 2 full years left in the NDP Liberal Supply and Confidence deal that expires June 2025.
June 2025. Buckle up, folks. David, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. That's David Smith from the Talkback Hour. He hosts that Talkback Hour each and every day. He takes your opinions. 613-750-1310. Write that down, because tomorrow is the Friday free-for-all with David Smith. So anything goes. Well, almost anything. Keep it clean, my friends. But David will throw out a couple of questions, as he usually does on the Friday free-for-all. But make sure you come in with your opinions. We always appreciate it. We'll be back with more. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Hey, man. Want to go for a ride?
Sure. Toss me a life jacket.
I'm gonna need this. Gonna need this.
Nope.
You're gonna need this. And this.
I think we should stay here. I thought you used to play ball.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV community billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the community billboard.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 27th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 19 degrees in Ottawa, 22 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. Phase 2 light rail construction will mean another 417 closure this weekend. Now, this will start tomorrow evening at 11 and is scheduled to last until Monday morning at 5. Select ramps will be closed as well along the 417 stretch from Greenbank to Woodruff. Now, this closure is to allow for work to be done on the 417 pedestrian bridge. For more details, head to our site at ottawa.citynews.ca. The Prime Minister is expected to release new mandate letters for most of his cabinet ministers in the coming weeks. Now, this should clarify exactly what he expects from his new Citizens Services Minister, Terry Beach. The newly appointed minister was not clear about the parameters of his job after yesterday's swearing-in ceremony at Rideau Hall. And the music world continues to mourn the loss of legendary Irish singer Sinead O'Connor, who died yesterday at age 56.
For decades, O'Connor, known as much for her music as for her controversy. In 1992, sparking fierce outrage after ripping up a photo of Pope John Paul II on national television to protest child sexual abuse in the Catholic Church.
Fight the real enemy.
Decades later, O'Connor converted to Islam.
City News Time, it's 10:33. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here from Rogers TV filling in for Sam. We've got an update coming from our next guest. We talked about this in the news here on City News. My next guest certainly frustrated, as well as other residents, for the rash of graffiti in Renfrew. He pleaded on social media for it to end. Here to tell us more about it and get an update on what's been happening is Mayor Tom Sidney from Renfrew. Good morning, Mayor Sidney.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. So I know we've talked about this on here on City News, but perhaps before we get to that update, you could just describe what the issue's been like with the rash of graffiti there.
So there's been an increase in graffiti. You know, every municipality has graffiti and stuff like that, but there's been an increase in Renfrew over the last few months. And then just the beginning of the week, we had 2 more areas targeted that we don't believe are connected to the ongoing stuff.
Okay.
It was just something that I think was, a couple kids decided to do, and we found out today that 2 arrests have been made in conjunction with the caboose.
Okay.
So the unfortunate part is they're 12 and 15 years old.
Jeez. It's I just don't understand the thinking behind it. I was a young person, and I've had my sort of rebel kind of outlook here and there. But, the purpose behind doing something like this, it just doesn't make any sense. And I imagine that's why yourself and residents are so frustrated.
Yeah, it's we strive really hard to make Renfrew a beautiful place for our residents and our community, and we also want to attract new residents and new business and opportunities. And I think with the graffiti, it just doesn't paint the town the way it is. And I think unfortunately the one or two individuals that are taking it upon themselves to deface our community, it wrecks it for everybody else. And I think people are starting to get frustrated and angry that people are doing this and not taking the respect that a lot of us have for our community, and we definitely want it to stop.
Mayor Sidney, is there are there any tags on here? Sometimes people put tags of some kind. What has the graffiti looked like? What kind of messaging have we seen?
Yeah, so the more historical for the last few months is, I personally believe it's probably one individual because it's all the same.
Okay.
The word alone is tagged a lot. There's a ghost, kind of like an anime ghost painted. It's. I worked in mental health for almost 30 years, so if we're here to try and help, and if somebody's hurting and feeling lost or alone, there's definitely services out there that can help them, and by using graffiti as an outlet for them is not the best way to do it, and it's unfortunately defacing our community, and it's criminal, and the police have an ongoing investigation, and I want to thank the OPP, the OPP, for their quick work that they did for this situation with the caboose, but I do believe there's still an ongoing investigation for the other stuff.
Yeah, and maybe this is secondary to some of the things you've just talked about, but I know, of course, residents care because it's taxpayers' money, and it's costly to take care of this kind of graffiti, right?
Well, and the thing about the caboose is it was in a lot of disrepair over the years, and the town and council and a community group that got together decided to restore it and paint it, and we had to take the lead paint off, which had to follow all the environmental rules, which is costly, and and then the painting, and it just really got restored about a week ago, and then this happened. So now it's, what do we do next? Does the paint have to come back off? Can we paint over it? Is it going to make it look different? Which is going to take town staff time, takes money, takes more volunteers, takes more people have donated money, and we're living in a time when not a lot of people have that free access money that and now it's going to waste almost, because now we got to do it over again.
Yeah, exactly. I know people have asked about the OPP, and it's difficult for the OPP to they're not going to sit and do a stakeout in and around Renfrew to finally catch somebody. They've got certainly some other priorities, but you've been in contact, I imagine, with the OPP throughout. What have you been hearing from them?
No, they, it's the unfortunate part is I think OPP are understaffed provincially. It's not just a Renfrew thing, and
right.
Obviously priorities vary from, where do you put graffiti? How do you line that up with, a violent crime or anything like that? Like, it doesn't, obviously, graffiti isn't that important at that point. So, we respect the work of the OPP, and I know that they're busy and they continue to do their work on this, but they also have other stuff to do, and we want to keep our community safe, and that's the priority. So the OPP definitely have other irons in the fire that I think take precedence over graffiti, but I know they're still working at it, and I commend them for that, and I thank them for that.
Some people have recommended perhaps, installing security cameras. Again, that's something that costs money, and you'd like to think, especially with these two arrests and the amount of publicity that we're seeing, that it won't be necessary to spend those thousands of dollars to install security cameras.
Well, we've at the town we've discussed it. I know it's going to be probably looked at a little bit more in depth. You're right; it is very costly. But we're going to look at. We have to respect the people's privacy as well. So strategically, where would the cameras go, on municipal property, things like that. So that's all going to be reviewed and taking an in-depth look. And there's grants out there as well. It's just a matter of, how much money do you put towards it? And, then it comes down to who's responsible staffing-wise to look after it, not just add to their plate. So it's a lot of work that needs to be done before we start doing that, and we want to do it the right way and make sure we're respectful, and but we also have to protect our property and make sure that people are accountable.
You know what? Since I have you, let's move on to some positives, Mayor Sidney and Renfrew, because it's been a fairly warm summer. Renfrew's a great spot. I know you get tourists that come through there. What has the summer been like so far in Renfrew?
Renfrew's been really, really busy this summer. Lots of tourism, lots of traffic. Our historical downtown's been extremely busy. We've had a few community events that went over well. We had our first music festival that was just a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't so cooperative. But,
that's a shame.
It was a good Friday. We just keep trying to make Renfrew a beautiful place for people to come, and they like it here, and we like them here. So.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the valley, that's for sure. And for those that haven't visited, I love that you mentioned right away that historical downtown. It's such a beautiful spot. Really appreciate the time today, and all the best to, of course, yourself and the residents, trying to get this, put this behind them so you can just move forward and enjoy that beautiful caboose and all the volunteer hard work that has gone into restoring it. So I appreciate your time today, Mayor Sidney.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's Mayor Tom Sidney from the mayor of Renfrew joining us on the show. Again, the update, 2 arrests have been made, a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old with the graffiti, the ongoing graffiti, rash of graffiti that they're hoping that will come to an end now with these 2 arrests. There's lots more coming up here on the Sam Laprade Show. We're going to be talking finances coming up after the break. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Being stuck in your home during this pandemic also means you have a home. Waiting in line for groceries means you have money for groceries. The isolation, being broke and totally scared about what's next. I was feeling that before this crisis. People say we're in this together, but me, I've got no one.
Youth who have aged out of the child welfare system are in danger of falling further through the cracks because of today's crisis. They need your support. Please give today at helpyouthnow.ca.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
Hey everybody, my name is Karen. I'm here with my best friends Shane and Monique. Join us on Rogers TV for Fitness Faction. Every week we're going to take you through a full body workout. We've got strength training, we've got cardio, we've got HIIT. Ladies, let's get back into it.
I think we've got 10 more skaters. Let's go.
Today, I helped a senior find transportation to an important medical appointment.
Today, I helped a new mom find virtual programming so she didn't feel so isolated.
Today, I helped someone understand new government supports.
Every day,
211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fate here from Rogers TV filling in for Sam. It's time to talk a little finance with our good friends from Scotia Wealth. I am joined by Douglas Y again this week. How are you, Douglas?
Fine, Derek. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks again for doing this. We always appreciate having you on the show from Scotia Wealth. Well, today we're talking about losing a loved one. Certainly always difficult, especially your spouse. Let's talk about, there's a lot of emotions that go with this, but having a financial plan in place is incredibly important. Let's talk about some of the, first of all, simple must-dos for our listeners to make sure they are prepared if, they have the unfortunate tragedy of losing their spouse or a loved one.
Thanks, Derek. And financial planning, if you become a widow, is extremely important. And if you or someone you know is going through this, I am sorry. As you mentioned, there's a tremendous emotional component. And although many acknowledge that refreshing your financial plan is important, it's obviously overwhelming when you think of it amongst everything else that's going on, right? But absolutely, today I thought we could walk through a few must-dos for your listeners. And perhaps I'll start with just making sure you work with a trusted group of people.
Okay.
This can include your, financial planner, accountant, lawyer, even friends or family that you might consult. But I think it's really important to break down what needs to be done more immediately, what can be done soon versus what can be put off until a little bit later. Immediate needs could be as simple as ensuring the bills are covered and continue to be covered. But I do typically recommend that you gather the support of others and when you're getting reoriented at that phase.
Okay, and then we move on to, making some more progress. You say what you need to do to start with is identifying net worth and income. Let's start with net worth. Expand on that for me.
Sure. So with respect to net worth, I would encourage those who are kind of at this stage to create a list of, let's say, your assets or debts outstanding.
Okay.
For example, I often see cases where there are bank accounts or investment accounts scattered between 3, 4, 5, maybe even more institutions. So before you try to start calling and engaging each one of these institutions separately and piecemeal, try to get a good overview of where everything stands.
Okay.
Okay, and the reason is that this is important is because each institution, mind you, will have their own respective timelines, and each institution will likely have their own communication requirements, have questions and follow-ups and back and forth. With this whole web of things going on, that can make things complex.
All right, so we identified net worth. Now we need to identify income.
Now, nearly 3/4, Derek, of widows experience a decline in their income over the 5 years after the death of their spouses. And naturally, this can make things difficult if you're accustomed to a certain amount of income within the household to pay off expenses, debts. So understanding those sources of income is very, very important. And for example, you may be eligible for survivorship benefits specifically that need to be applied for, right? So that would include pension income for many, obviously in the federal government. Is it a case now that you need to determine, should I start withdrawing from my investment portfolio? Or even the annuity is an option that may create a more consistent income stream for those in experiencing this.
Just a reminder to everybody, we're talking to Douglas Lai from Scotia Wealth. And then the next one that I think can actually take more time than people realize, and that is the settling of the estate. Douglas, let's talk about that.
You're absolutely correct. I think a lot of folks probably underestimate the time frame in which it takes to settle the estate. Now, in a traditional sense, most spouses become the beneficiary of the household assets.
Right.
And so we won't have time to really delve in detail on the estate process, but at the core of it, we're talking about shifting the assets now to the surviving spouse's name, right? That could include investments. It could include property as well, right?
Right.
And you need to make sure that all the checks and balances are taken care of, even to the point of life insurance. A lot of people have life insurance, whether it be through your employer or privately. So does a claim need to be filed, as an example?
Okay.
Another tidbit I thought I would mention is that there are often government benefits that are applicable too. So most folks in Canada or the Ottawa area are entitled to Canada Pension Plan, or just across the Quebec side, the Quebec Pension Plan. And usually you're entitled to a lump sum death benefit of $2,500 upon a partner passing.
Okay. So, right now we get to the point where, let's say we've settled our estate, but of course things change, right? So things change certainly financially and moving ahead and what your lifestyle is going to be like. So how do you go about refreshing your financial plan and then that new vision of what your life is going to be like moving forward?
You're absolutely correct, Derek. You're living in a new reality, so to speak. You need to make sure that long-term especially, that financial plan reflects those new circumstances, right? Are you still on track with where you should be? And you have to consider, are there other complications now that arose, right? Whether it be additional childcare needs, are there beneficiary designations, on your assets that need to be updated? What we find that's interesting is very often new priorities actually come to light after the passing of a loved one. Whether that be the priority to, for example, spend time with your family, again, across Canada, let's say, or even finding new passions to travel abroad and enjoy life. All these items can actually impact your finances. So it's important just to make sure you review that your financial plan is on track.
Let's then look at the investment portfolio. Obviously, I would as you said, build that team around me. So you as a financial advisor, you're part of that team. Do I sit down with you then and reassess my investment plan, my portfolio?
Absolutely. That's where the financial plan and the investments, at least to how me and our team, we work with our clients, they kind of connect the dots and tie together, right? Where it's really important to reassess that investment plan. So just take a hard look at your portfolio, right? Is it customized to what you need it to be to ensure that, again, it supports those long-term goals, or let alone short-term goals that you might have?
Yeah, and Douglas, I get it's important too, right? Because, if you don't have a financial planner, trying to figure out where you're going to take money from, right? Because you could have, as you said a little bit earlier, multiple investments, investment accounts, let's say, over, a number of different institutions. So do I start taking out of my my RRSP or my TFSA or if I have a separate mutual funds? I mean, there are different implications for all of those, right?
And that's something we need to look at. You're absolutely correct. There's going to be different tax implications, different strategies that might be involved now that if there's one surviving partner, if you will, right? And there's certainly going to be arguably some benefits that might be off the table now, right? So pension income splitting is a huge one that we utilize for spouses, especially in their latter years. That might not be applicable. So we need to make sure the investment portfolio is customized to each person's circumstances overall.
Douglas, always appreciate this. I mean, last week we had such a great conversation, and this one, again, is such a difficult one because you mentioned the emotional component and, everything off the top is, things get turned upside down. It can be so confusing. So, I this is such an important conversation for people to have, and I'm glad you brought it to light to us here on the Sam Laprade Show today. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me, Derek.
Take care. That's Douglas Lai from Scotia Wealth. Again, losing a loved one, always difficult. But if you're going through this, don't forget that first step is getting that, that group of people around you, that trusted group, as he said, that financial planner, an accountant, perhaps it's a family member to help you, with consultation, or, a good friend. That's your starting point. A lawyer, of course, as well. So make sure, if you find yourself in that position, to put together that support group, that trusted group of people. We'll be back with more here on the Sam Laprade Show. This is Derek Fage filling in for Sam. You've been watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
This is a man's heart, a heart in desperate need of medical attention. But because 78% of Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, he may not get the help he needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Hi, I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
WW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 27th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kesta. Right now, 19 degrees in Ottawa. In Smiths Falls, it's 22. Here's what's making news right now. OZ Transpo will be carrying out more frequent inspections on the light rail, with gradual service expected by Monday next week. Officials saying yesterday that 8 trains will be running with single cars only. Now, this will also mean a change on how often trains arrive, meaning a train roughly every 7 to 8 minutes. Replacement buses will continue running as trains gradually return to the tracks. Now, we're expecting to get another update from OC Transpo officials at 4 this afternoon, which City News 1011 will carry that live as it happens. Now, voters in the Canada-Carleton riding have 6 candidates to choose from in that area's by-elections. Polls are open until 9 tonight. The riding looking to replace former MPP Marilee Fullerton after she resigned in March of this year. More information on the candidates and where you can vote, you can head to our site at ottawa.citynews.ca. Now, checking in with your weather for today, here's our weather specialist, Denise Andriacci.
We will have sun and cloud this afternoon, the wet weather subsiding, at least temporarily. We are pretty clear into this evening and overnight, down to lows near 20. Cloudy with sunny breaks and the chance of showers and very strong storms late day Friday. So we're going to be keeping an eye on the radar as high heat and humidity is back in the forecast, near 30 tomorrow, feeling like 40. Our guaranteed high today, seasonal, 27.
Right now, 20 degrees in Ottawa. In Smiths Falls, it's 22. The pilot has died after a fatal crash just east of Alexandria. Crews were called to Power Dam Road just after 1 in the afternoon. OPP say the pilot was pronounced dead at the scene, and one passenger in that plane was taken to hospital. Both the provincial police and the Transportation Safety Board are now investigating. A 16-year-old Canadian swimmer continues to dominate in Japan. City's Zach Bodenstein is taking a look.
A gold medal and a second consecutive day of World Junior record time. Just another day in the pool for Summer McIntosh at the World Aquatics Championship in Japan. The phenom from Toronto stands atop the podium in the women's 200-meter butterfly, and then she raced in the 4x200-meter relay just an hour later. McIntosh joins Kylie Moss as the Canadians to win 3 World Championship gold medals. Zach Bodenstein, City News.
And a well-known boy band is coming to the Canadian Tire Centre this November.
Stop pretending you're shy, just come on and dance, 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 dance. Oh.
Yes, it's the Jonas Brothers heading on a global tour, which kicks off next month, and that continues into 2024. Now, of course, they will be making stops in Canadian cities like Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Vancouver. They'll be coming to the nation's capital on November 29th. Tickets go on sale next month.
Let's do it one more time.
City News Time, it's 11:04. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista for news anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, filling in for Sam. The Jonas Brothers coming. Oh my goodness. I like me some Jonas Brothers. You know, I'm a kind of a classic rock kind of guy for the most part. But they got some great, I love their song Sucker, right? I'm a sucker for you. I sing that to my wife. It drives her absolutely crazy. And now you can see why. My next, hey, speaking of great things that are coming to Ottawa, Never mind the Jonas Brothers, Comic-Con is back. Ottawa Comic-Con back in Ottawa, and they have a great lineup of special guests and panels and workshops and you name it. Here to walk us through what you can expect this year is Jason Rockman, spokesperson with Ottawa Comic-Con. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on. I kind of like the Jonas Brothers, too.
Nice. See, there you go. Everyone thinks I'm an old guy at 53. I like me some Jonas Brothers. There's a lot of, actually, some really good, I would say, young, excellent artists out there nowadays. I think there was a period in the 90s where I kind of just stuck with classic rock, but I'm liking what I say. I'm liking what I'm hearing lately on the radio. But never mind me. Let's talk about you, Jason, and Ottawa Comic-Con. Do you know any of the history behind Comic-Con here in the city?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been the spokesperson since its inception.
Yeah, I thought so.
Inception, like 10 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, we, ever since we started Comic-Con in Ottawa, it's funny because I've been involved with the Montreal show for almost 15 years. And when we decided, the team was like, we're going to do a show in Ottawa. I was like, I don't know, man. It's really close to Montreal and, kind of like halfway between Toronto, and there's two big shows there. I don't know if it'll work. Boy, was I wrong. After the first year, I realized that, the people in Toronto have a show, the people in Montreal have a show, but the Ottawa people really responded well to their own show, and it's just been growing and growing, and we're just so happy that, 10 years later, here we are doing our show again at the EY Center, and people are excited about it.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that attendance is excellent here in Ottawa. Just from my own circle of friends and family, my brother's in his 50s and he's doing Dungeons and Dragons on a weekly basis, and my brother and I both love comics, and we're Star Trek fans and that sort of thing. So there's no surprise to me at all. Let's start with some special guests. I wonder, has it been a little more difficult with the strike in the U.S. getting special guests, celebrity guests this year?
Well, actually, no.
Okay.
On the contrary, you figure that would be the case, but no. A lot of them have free time now. So the fact that we have, a fan event, which doesn't really qualify as a promotional event, they're free to come to our event, and that's what's great about it. And I think, in the coming weeks, you'll see more and more guests that are going to be announced. I mean, obviously, we have a pretty solid guest lineup as it is, but we've got a lot more coming. And I think the strike for us personally doesn't really affect us that way. It actually, if it, it's crazy to say, but actually might help us because
interesting, yeah.
Some of the guests that have crazy shooting schedules will be free. So, but we're really excited about what we have so far. And we just announced Gates McFadden. If you're a Star Trek fan, and if you watch Picard, I mean, she's from Next Gen, but now making her mark again on Picard, we're really, really excited to have her.
I watched all the Picard seasons, and it was excellent. What about some other guests? Who else have you got in your lineup?
Well, fans of the Mandalorian are going to be excited. So we've got Giancarlo Esposito. We've got Emily Swallow as well. Both of them from the Mandalorian and from the Book of Boba Fett. So that's really, really exciting. Christopher Eccleston from Doctor Who. We've got Amber Midthunder, who was the breakout star from that movie that came out. Remember, during the pandemic, there was a movie that went straight to Disney, and it was Prey. It was a Predator.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that we've got her coming, and that is just so exciting. I mean, I think it's one of the first times she's doing a show, definitely in Canada, and we're just really stoked to have her there. Billy West, known for all of his voice work on Futurama and of course Ren and Stimpy. Yeah. And Charles Martinet. If you've never met Charles Martinet, he's the voice of Mario and many more characters in the Mario Brothers movie. Video games. He's just a great guest. So that's just the first wave of guests that we've announced. Plus a ton of great comic book guests. And, it's just every year when we come to the UI Center, we get more and more excited because our guests just keep getting better and better. And I really like the Ottawa show. We do 4 shows, our team. We do Montreal, Ottawa, Quebec, and Winnipeg. But Ottawa is always a special one for me because I just like the fact that the EYs it becomes its own self-contained little universe where it's just its own space where this can all exist and happen, and the energy is just so great.
And I imagine with those celebrities, they're going to be on stage and talking. There's going to be autographs, photo ops available, perhaps depending on the type of ticket that you get, or is this sort of?
Well, what I always tell people is with a general admission ticket, with a regular ticket, you can take advantage of so many things that happen during the weekend. If you go to our website and you look at our programming, it's not just walking around the exhibition hall. All of these guests will do panels. There's concerts. There's all kinds of stuff that happens during the weekend. So the programming is really, really fun, and it's all included with your ticket. So that's the great thing about Ottawa Comic-Con, is that it's not just one thing. There's so many things, and that's what people need to know. Like, when all these panels are going on, there's a lot of events that happen. So if you're walking around, you need to get a load off and you want to sit down, you can spend time with these guests doing a Q&A, and they'll tell you stories about what's happened on set and so on and so forth.
Love it.
It's just really, really fun. Plus, of course, there's the opportunity to get autographs. There's opportunity to get photo ops. So it's fun. And, cosplay. Do you know what cosplay is?
Oh, yes, okay. Of course, yeah.
so there you go. So when and this is the thing people have to understand. It's not a prerequisite to come dressed up, but it always is fun when you see the cosplayers that put so much effort into their costumes. I always say that they're the stars of the show because they're the ones that work tirelessly year round to prepare these costumes to put on display and to walk around. And just if you want to go people watch and take pictures, and that is fun. So I think one of the reasons why people love coming to Comic-Con and it keeps growing is that it's one of these events that once you've attended once, you'll want to come back because it's just so much fun.
Yeah,
and it really
absolutely.
is a celebration of all of pop culture. So.
Tell me about, speaking of cosplay, tell me about the Masquerade.
Yeah, so
that's one of your main events, right?
Yeah, that's something that happens on Saturday night, and that's really, really fun. It's a costume contest, and everybody literally masquerades their costume in front of a group of judges and a full audience, and it's one of the most popular things that happens at our shows. And it's really a chance to see some of the best, and it's impressive. If you've never attended a masquerade, it's something else, and I always look forward to that. It's one of the highlights of the weekend.
Yeah, that is so cool. And as you said, people just go all out. I mean, it's amazing what they do. You've got some panels and workshops as well, right?
Yeah, everything. All our programming's up on our website, and we're adding every day. Every week we're adding guests. Every day we're adding more programming. So it's just going to get more and more complete. And I always encourage people to go to the website to get everything. And the other thing too is, like, when it comes to tickets, because these events are so well attended, I always encourage people to get their tickets in advance as much as they can, because it avoids you having to wait that day to maybe get a ticket at the box office, and it just speeds you in. It gets you in quicker.
Jason, let's talk about the shopping experience, because as you said, you've got this, what is it, like 100,000 square feet practically available, right?
Yeah, it's a massive space, and what I love about going to Comic-Con is that you'll always find something that that'll get you excited. Whether it's T-shirts, whether it's comic books, whether it's action figures, pop figures, you name it, it's there. And also, let's not forget all the comic book artists. We have incredible comic book artists that are coming, and a lot of them will do a commission. So if you get to them, early in the show, you can put yourself on their list to do a commission over the weekend, and they'll do like a custom drawing for you. So the idea of getting someone like Arthur Sidem, who's known for all the Marvel Zombie stuff, for him to do something for you custom, that's really, really cool. So there's all these opportunities to do so many cool things and to buy some great things too. A lot of people save up money for Comic-Con because there's some great pop culture stuff to be had at the show for sure.
Just last question for you. I think the connotation, nerd, I think is actually a positive one now. Like, my brother and I have always joked, because we grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons and some of the early computer games where it was text only, and people would consider you a nerd. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions around sort of nerd culture in general. Maybe you could speak on that.
Well, you mentioned you're 53. I'm 52, so we grew up in the same. We grew up the same era where if you told people in high school you were collecting comics, they'd say you're exactly a nerd. And, but the thing is, the nerds run the world now.
Agreed. Badge of honor.
Exactly, and we've you can really pinpoint it. 2007 when the Big Bang Theory started. That was when everything changed.
Yeah.
It really, really changed for so many people because all these people that were, living together that were nerds, as you and I call them, became household names, and everyone were welcoming them into their living room and watching them every week. And that's what really started the explosion of pop culture. And then Iron Man. And that was it, it just really, it's just set the fire for everything. And it became all of a sudden everybody's going to see, the biggest stuff going on in Hollywood has to do with the stuff we read in comic books.
Yeah. No, it's so right. You know what it reminds me of? Because I grew up a theater person as well, not necessarily musical theater, but what Glee did, when it came out in 2009. And all of a sudden, theater people went, hey, we're cool too now, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of, it was the theater versus, the jock, right? Going back to my theater days, that's kind of, was always the two sort of groups that were so separate from each other. And then Glee just made theater cool again, just like, as you just described back in 2007. Jason, really appreciate the time. Congratulations on putting together another one. And as you said, more announcements to come.
Thank you so much for the support. We can't wait to see everybody in Ottawa.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't wait to get out there. That's Jason Rockman, spokesperson with Ottawa Comic-Con. You can find out more at ottawacomiccon.com. We'll be back with more. This is Derek Fage filling in the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Ancestors came here from France to build a better life. We lived here happily for generations until the British decided they wanted our land. The men were called to a meeting and then imprisoned. They demanded we swear an oath to their king and took everything, regardless. We were forced from Acadie, the only home we knew. Mon Acadie n'existera plus.
From 1755 to 1763, over 10,000 Acadians were ripped from their homeland. Despite this, Acadian culture endures in Atlantic Canada.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. I watched with great interest yesterday. Many of us in the newsroom certainly did, and I guarantee our next guest certainly watched with great interest. A House Oversight Subcommittee held a hearing on UFOs, officially known as Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, or UAPs, and we heard some incredible testimony about unexplained object sightings and government possession of, get this, non-human biological matter. Here to talk more about it, I am joined by Chris Rutowski. He is a science writer and communicator. He's published 9 books, including Visitations, Unnatural History, Abductions and Aliens, the Canadian UFO Report, and he joins us here this morning on the Sam Laprade Show. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
So I imagine you watched this, Chris. Were you surprised from what you heard?
I can't say that I personally was very surprised because almost everything that was said yesterday has been out in the public for quite some time. The only difference was this was delivered under oath before a subcommittee of Congress. And, I suppose that makes it a little more, official than anything else.
Right. And let's talk about the reliability of these sources, right? Because I'm sure people are going to question, how reliable. These are very reliable sources, Chris.
Yeah, there's no question that the credentials for these people are very significant. 2 are pilots who, most pilots have pretty decent observational capabilities, and we rely on them every day for getting us safely to and fro. These are military pilots, so they're used to flying around in operational theaters under stress. One was a former intelligence officer who actually had been involved in the investigation of UAP, as the Americans are calling them. And so, these are people that, should know better and do apparently know better. But the problem was we don't really have much more than, anecdotes, observational testimony. In fact, the main witness, David Grush, kept on saying this is what he was told by people over the years, not things that he's actually seen or touched or seen, heard himself. But these are, secondhand sources. And the problem is that he did say that he would, release some of these names and official data privately, but that doesn't give us what we're looking for. I guess a lot of UFO fans are looking for the real truth right now, and there is really no mechanism for releasing classified information to the public, and that's where we stand.
I want to go back to earlier this year, February of this year. We saw quite an uptick in reported sightings in Canada. We had a U.S. fighter jet shot down, I remember, 3 objects over a weekend back in February. And I know you had spoken to media on that. Maybe you can tell us about that incident or those incidents in general and why perhaps we're seeing more of an uptick of reported sightings.
Well, overall, I'm not sure we're actually higher than last year. I think we're probably just about even, but we're certainly hearing about more. And, the prominent ones we definitely hear about. These were the first one was a Chinese balloon that had flown over Canada before heading to the United States. And, of course, it was shot down. And then there were a number of other incidents, one up in Yukon, one over one of the Great Lakes, and those things were shot down. And so, these are things that are taken seriously by the Canadian military and the American military. And the one that was shot down over the Great Lakes shows that there is an intense collaboration between the United States and Canada, certainly with NORAD. And we continue to get pilot reports of things seen in the sky that are listed as UFOs by Transport Canada.
I'm just going to go back to David Grush for a moment. I should let everybody know he served for 14 years as an intelligence officer in the Air Force and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. He appeared before that House Oversight Committee. This is the other thing, even outside of UFOs or what are they called, UAFs or UAPs, sorry. UAPs is how they designate them. But he said later on he had interviewed officials who had direct knowledge of aircraft with non-human origins and that so-called biologics were recovered from some craft. How, when you hear that, Chris, how believable do you think that, is that really, do you think that's possible?
Well, I'm the ultimate doubting Thomas. I mean, my astronomy background says that there's certainly a strong possibility there's alien life out there somewhere. Over the past, many decades, we haven't seen any evidence. In fact, NASA's study says that they haven't seen any verifiable evidence of aliens, and the Pentagon study says that they haven't seen any verifiable evidence. And yet you have this whistleblower who says that he's spoken with people who say, yes, there is, and that it's being covered up at a high level. Well, I mean, it's a wonderful story, and it would be great if it was true, but we have no way of verifying that. And if it's classified at such a high level, in fact, he said that these programs that handle this type of thing are outside of any Pentagon jurisdiction, the ultimate X-Files, I suppose, and that there's misappropriation of funds within Congress to pay for this research. And if that's true, that's a very serious charge. And I suspect that congressional investigations, especially through the House Oversight Committee, has to get to the bottom of that. If a lot of money is being spent on this, we should know why, or I guess the American public should know why.
Chris, are you encouraged with this, sort of growing willingness by lawmakers to demand that the military and intelligence agencies release more about what they know regarding these, many mysterious incidents that we've seen over, decades and decades?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always been a public interest in this. Certainly, I'd have to say the public interest is at probably an all-time high right now, although it's always been fairly significant. Science has been a little leery at looking at this, but scientists in greater numbers have started taking a look at UAP and UFOs. In fact, this coming weekend, there's 2 separate conferences by scientists to talk about and share information about UAP research. So there's a strong interest, and in Canada, I know that former Minister Anita Anand of Defense was involved and had been asked questions about UAP. We'll see what Bill Blair has to say about it once he's been briefed. I imagine Dominic LeBlanc, who's taken over from Marco Mendocino, is certainly going to have to be briefed and asked questions about this because, the United States says that Canada has partnered with some of this research, and I think the Canadian public needs to know exactly to what extent too.
Yeah, agreed, Chris. I know we reached out to you just a little while ago, and so we really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's been a busy day of interviews for you, so thank you so much for joining me.
You're most welcome.
All right, take care. That's Chris Rutkowski, science writer and communicator and editor. He has published 9 books, including Visitations, Unnatural History, co-authored the Canadian UFO Report, A World of UFOs in 2008. I Saw It Too in 2009. So, we're talking to a guy who really knows his stuff. Really appreciate the time again, Chris. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back with more. We've got lots coming up, including your news. It's just around the corner. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show, and you're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Hi, I'm Paula Roy, and it's my pleasure to welcome you back into my kitchen for another season of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. My approach to food is pretty straightforward. Fancy is fine, but when you're in a time crunch or have a really hungry and patient family to feed, I say simple recipes made with wholesome ingredients that you probably have on hand are the best. And that's exactly what you'll find on Paula Roy's Favorite Foods on Rogers TV.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 27th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 20 degrees in Ottawa, 21 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news this hour. Nova Scotia road crews have repaired nearly 500 sections of damaged paved and gravel roads following last weekend's record flooding. Now, they've whittled the number of provincial road closures down from nearly 60 to about 20 following that weekend's flooding. There are several bridges that still need minor repairs but reopened, and another 29 need more extensive work in that area. Now, here at home, Phase 2 light rail construction means another 417 closure this weekend. This will start tomorrow evening at 11 and is scheduled to last until Monday morning at 5. Select ramps will be closed as well along the 417 stretch from Greenbank to Woodruff. The closure will allow for work to be done on the 417 pedestrian bridge. And voters have 6 candidates to choose from in the Canada-Carleton by-election. Polls are open until 9 tonight. The riding is looking to replace former MPP Marilee Fullerton after she resigned in March of this year. City News Time, it's 11:32. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Thanks so much for spending some time with us here today. You've probably heard there's an election going on right now today. That's right, the Canada-Carleton by-election happening. Polls opened at 9 a.m. Polls will be closing at 9 p.m. today. Candidates are as follows. For the Ontario PCs, Sean Webster. We had him on the show. We also spoke to Liberal candidate Karen McCrimmon, NDP candidate Melissa Conrad we've spoken to. There is an independent running, Josh Rackless, New Blue Party, Jennifer Boudreau, and for the Green Party, representing the Green Party, Stephen Warren. We've had a few of them on the show. We're actually trying to get a hold of Stephen right now. We're working on it. We had him scheduled for the show today, so we're just having, but just to give you an update, yeah, we've got Sean Webster, Ontario PCs, Josh Rackless, the Independent, Liberal candidate Karen McCrimmon, NDP candidate Melissa Conrad, New Blue candidate Jennifer Boudreau, and the Green Party candidate Stephen Warren. Voters they head to the polls to select that MPP. There's another by-election, by the way. The other is in Toronto, the riding of Scarborough-Guildwood. And you may recall this by-election is happening, by the way, because of the departure of Progressive Conservative MPP and Cabinet Minister Marilee Fullerton, who abruptly resigned back in March and really didn't have much to say about her resignation. It came as a bit of a surprise. Elections Ontario, their numbers right now for the people that voted in advance polls. So there was advance polls 19th, 20th, and 21st. The advance poll had 6,664 people come out. And I'll just walk you a bit through some of these candidates and sort of the bio and summary on them. Sean Webster, again, running for the PCs. He was nominated as that candidate to replace Fullerton. He's worked for Canopy Growth and its vice president of government and stakeholder relations. Also says he's worked in the pharmaceutical industry, including as vice president of public affairs for Shoppers Drug Mart. We had a chance to speak to him earlier this week. And now we get a chance to speak to Stephen Warren, who is representing the Green Party of Ontario. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning.
Great to talk to you again. You and I had an opportunity to chat for Rogers TV, and now you get to join us here on City News. Let's talk, Stephen, first of all, a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to our listeners.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Stephen Warren. I'm 19 years old. I'm a student at the University of Ottawa. I'm the son of two amazing working-class parents. My mom works at Queensway Carleton Hospital, helping folks in our community. My father's a retired auto worker. I'm running because it's about time we see some real change here in Canada Carleton.
Okay, let's look at some of the top issues that you and I discussed previously. We've discussed it with all of the candidates we've had on the show so far. I know that one of the big issues for you that you're passionate about is education. Tell me, give us your platform on education.
Yeah, well, as 19 years old, I'm a young person, and education is vital for the future generations. I was a high school student when Doug Ford took office and when the initial education cuts were implemented, and it really hurt us high school students in Ontario. My high school could not afford paper for the printer, for example. There are public schools in Canada Carleton that are in disrepair, that some don't even have AC. So we have students learning in super hot classrooms in summer, and there's no AC, there's no relief. It just isn't okay. We need to take action to protect our public education. We need to ensure that every student has a safe learning environment.
I'm speaking to Stephen Warren, Green Party candidate in the by-election that, of course, is going on today. You have until 9 p.m. to get your vote in. Let's move on to healthcare. A huge topic. Each and every candidate we've spoken to says, at the doors, when they're knocking on doors, this is probably the top issue for many. Are you hearing the same?
Healthcare is the number one priority for Canada Carleton residents. We absolutely must protect our public healthcare system. As I said, my mom is a health worker at Queensway Carleton. She tells me every day she works overnight shifts. She's working hard for the family, and she tells us that healthcare workers are struggling right now, and they really need our help. Our nurses are walking off the job because they are not being paid fairly. We need to ensure that every nurse is paid fairly. We have to be there to support our nurses. We have to be there to support public health care. This government is spending our taxpayer dollars to privatize health care, meaning we're going to have to pay hundreds of dollars with our credit cards to see doctors. And I think that's outrageous.
Let's move on to another topic, the topic of transportation. Stephen, you're a young person. You probably use public transportation on occasion. The LRT here continues to be down. We're supposed to see some trains, albeit only 8 out of the 45, come back online on Monday. It's been described as a mess by the Premier. I know that residents in Canada Carleton are certainly frustrated that they don't have the public transportation they believe that they deserve. What are you hearing? What needs to be done here to make sure people are confident in a more reliable public transit system?
Yeah, transit is a mess right now. You know, the LRT is down, which is really hurting my ability to get to where I need to go. And many of my peers, my Ottawa peers, the students who live in Canada Carleton, because it's what they can afford, they tell me, you know, they're getting up like 2-3 hours early in the morning to maybe catch that bus that will hopefully get to campus on time. But often the bus is late, doesn't show up. Or as we're seeing right now with the R1 bus service, it's completely packed and there's absolutely no room. We need to protect the public transit. It is vital in the fight against climate change, and it's important for everyone in Canada Carleton to get where they need to go on time. The buses need to run on time. We cannot afford another LRT fiasco. You know, I strongly believe we need to fund our public transit. We have to make sure that public transit remains public.
Stephen, what are your thoughts on both the mayor and the premier have said they won't go ahead with putting any money into a phase 3 until all of these issues are resolved? Do you agree with that?
Like many Canada Carleton residents, I am disappointed at the state of OC transport right now, that the LRT is still down and we don't really see good news yet at our LRT, and that the buses, they are packed, they're not running on time. We need to ensure that our public transit is public, that it's funded by the public, that our government is there to ensure.
No. I heard you, Stephen. Yeah, I mean, you're repeating what you just said. I'm saying, what do you think about phase 3? Would you still go ahead with phase 3? Do you think we should put money into that, even though we're facing these issues on phase 1?
No, well, I absolutely do support investing in public transit, and I would like to see the funding keep going.
Okay.
But what I want to ensure that the money is public, that we don't have these private partnerships, because this private partnership that we're having right now in Ottawa, it's not working.
Gotcha.
We have to ensure that public transit remains public.
Let's talk about housing and development. There's a lot of development coming your way. There's a lot of development happening at the moment. And I know that residents understand that development is necessary, but they also want to see a balance, and they want to see green space protected. How do you find that balance, Stephen?
We need to ensure that our housing is affordable and sustainable. The urban sprawl agenda that Doug Ford is doing now, it's not affordable. It's making housing even more expensive, and it's paving over our green space. We need to protect our green space, especially enforcing the agreement that was made within Canada North, protecting our Canada North green space. Housing must be sustainable. That means using the land we already have instead of expensive urban sprawl, which is just going to worsen the climate crisis, ruin our environment, and make housing more expensive.
Stephen, really appreciate the time. I know it's probably an extremely busy day for you here, so thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and good luck today. Again, that is Stephen Warren, Green Party candidate, the by-election in Canada Carleton. Polls are open right now. If you're a resident of Canada Carleton, make sure you get out there and vote. The polls will be open until 9 p.m. this evening, and of course we'll bring you news of who's going to take over there in Canada Carleton as your representative at Queen's Park. Lots more coming up, as you heard during our news here on City News. Rob Snow on Wake Up with Rob Snow talked about the passing of Sinead O'Connor. Sinead O'Connor has died at the age of 56. Just an incredible artist and an unbelievable life lived. She has gone through a lot of challenges. We'll be back to talk about Sinead O'Connor and just her life and what she went throughout her life, and some of those big moments in her career, including that Saturday Night Live. We'll be back with that here on the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage filling in. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of the new Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
It was my daughter's birthday. She was blowing out the candles on our cake when we heard coming from the TV. So we stopped and listened, and it helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of my daughter's birthday, because now she gets to keep having them.
I'm Meg from Fit Over 50, and I'm here with Fit Finley. I want to invite you to join my upcoming workout, which is focused on upper body and lower body stretches. No equipment is required. All you'll need is a chair. Hope to see you there.
Fit Over 50 with Meg, weekday mornings at 8:30 on Rogers TV.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
This is to mother you, to comfort you and get you through when your nights are lonely, through when your dreams are only blue. This is to mother you.
Jeez, just gives me chills. What a beautiful song. Rob Snow and I, we talk music all the time on Wake Up with Rob Snow. I join him every Friday at 8:30, and we usually go down a music rabbit hole and discuss, different lists and when it comes to music and talk about some of the great acts that we've seen all over the years and the artists that we respect. And Sinead O'Connor is certainly one of those artists. Unfortunately, the unfortunate news coming out, Sinead O'Connor, Irish singer-songwriter, became a superstar in her mid-20s, has died at the age of 56. And here to talk more about her incredible career and life lived, a woman that went through many challenges. Joe Riley from RBC Ottawa Blues Fest joining me. Good morning, Joe. Welcome. Great to have you back to talk some music.
It's nice to be back, but under such sad circumstances. Sinead O'Connor has been somebody whose career I actually followed fairly closely, though I have to tell you this morning I was busy with some other stuff, so I may not have all my dates lined up on things that she did, but somebody who was a true artist and true to herself all of the time, and someone who very publicly and openly, faced challenges around mental health and mental illness many times very publicly. And it's very sad to hear about what's happened with her, more about what's later. But unfortunately, just an amazing creative person is no longer with us.
Yeah, and broke onto the scene. Her first album, it was The Lion and the Cobra, released to certainly critical acclaim in 1987, but it was O'Connor's 1990 sophomore album, right, that really broke her through as a well-known artist, Joe.
Well, sure. That rendition she made of "Nothing Compares to You," which was a song penned by Prince, and the video, the stark, unbelievable video she created for that. I mean, that album, and in that year, I mean, she received, I think it was 4 Grammy nominations, and she actually refused even the nominations. I think she won an award for Best Alternative Performance, refused to show up, refused to take it. She just never wanted to be part of that whole fame machine, right?
Yeah.
And even after she released that album, I mean, her next album was "Am I Not Your Girl," in which she did a whole bunch of like Broadway standards. And it's like, oh, here's how to make sure don't do another Prince cover, do a whole bunch of Broadway standards, even like and it's an interesting take on what to do in your career. But that's what she decided to do right after, and she's always followed her own muse.
Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, too. Was she not disappointed that Nothing Compares to You became her greatest hit because, it wasn't a song that she sang? If I remember correctly, she even refused to sing it in live performances.
So I don't remember exactly. I read her memoir last year, and it's a memoir that's well worth reading. But it sounds, I mean, in some degree, some people would say, "Wow, self-sabotage," and she would have been like that. I mean, that is a beautiful and amazing song. But you opened with "This Is to Mother You," a song that Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt and Dolly Parton, I think, worked on an album together, and they covered that together because it's an unbelievable song about trying to offer, care and compassion and soothing to someone who's going through a difficult time. And, she had a relationship with her mother that was very fraught, and their mother died still when she was young.
Yeah.
But, and in fact, she makes reference to it kind of in that song, like which your own mother couldn't do, but an amazing song that was her really soft and reflective side in that song. And there's a bunch of them in her career. Critics never, after that album, that big album, never gave her due. I read so many venomous, slashing reviews of her albums, and I would listen to the album and go, yeah, there's some things here that maybe are a bit much, but I think every album almost by her has merit, and when you take it into the context of her career, they're all interesting to listen to.
And then she had some, just some moments that, certainly stand out to many probably listening in right now. And that is, that Saturday Night Live, remember? I mean, she really was a nonconformist, probably
Totally.
One of the greatest, certainly in my lifetime. A real critic of the Catholic Church, right? And well before allegations of sexual abuse were widely reported. She made headlines in '92, right? She tore up that photo of Pope John Paul II while appearing on NBC's Saturday Night Live and denounced the church as the enemy.
After I can't remember if it was a full a cappella version of Bob Marley's War, or if she just spoke some of the lines from it. That was a photo that her mother had up in her house, and Sinead had kept that for years, planning to destroy it at some point because of her anger at the church. And then she chose to do it in that very public setting. I think what's most astonishing about that incident, there's two things, I think. One is that a few weeks later, she's on a Bob Dylan tribute concert. Bob Dylan, a man who stood against conforming and against the norms. She's at a Bob Dylan tribute concert, and she gets booed off the stage by the audience. Chris Christopherson comes out to comfort her. It's like, you want to go to the microphone and go, do you people know who you're here celebrating?
Yeah.
What are you, dopes? I mean, she should have been given a standing ovation. And she was way ahead in recognizing the church's role in not only abusing children and people, but covering it up, right? I mean, and that's what she was saying at that point. And now people are saying, oh, yeah, she was brilliant to have done that. What a genius move to make people aware. But she was she was lambasted for it. And interesting, in her book, she says, people all say to her, "Oh, you ended your career with that." She goes, "No, I freed my career of all the previous expectations, and then I could do what I wanted after that." I don't know if that was her in retrospect. She didn't think it out at the time, but she said, "No, that freed me up."
Joe, you mentioned, how she was, the critics weren't very kind to her with her albums, and I tend to agree with you. I mean, there's some beautiful music in there that I don't think many people listening right now probably have ever had a chance to hear, because she just didn't get the credit that she deserves as a beautiful singer and a great songwriter in many a song. Is there a song, outside of the hits? Is there a song that kind of stands out to you, Joe, where you say to yourself, this is Sinead O'Connor, like this is her speaking?
There's a couple. I mean, The Real VIP, somebody should dig that up and go listen to it, where she gives it to everybody who are VIPs of things. But Take Off Your Shoes is an incredibly powerful song. It reflects her anger side, as we started with her beautiful, gentle, compassionate side. And in that song, she's calling out anybody who's a hypocrite. Take off your shoes. You're on hallowed ground. A very, very amazing, powerful song. And, she would be proud of people, I think, talking about those kind of songs today, because they really, I think, reflected her soul, a tortured soul, but a powerful soul that was there for us in song.
You mentioned tortured soul. That just reminds me that, how many times she reached out on social media. I think Twitter more than any other's social media, but, even like sending out pleas for help at times, Joe.
The death of her son a few years ago by suicide, I don't think she's ever recovered from that. And it was, she's had mental health challenges previously. I mean, the life she lived, always under the microscope for everything she did, and challenging stuff all the way. It's not easy.
You mentioned that memoir that she released for everybody out there. That was in 2021. It's titled Rememberings, where, as you said, she talks about, growing up in a family like completely falling apart, and talks about her, early times in Dublin music, and I'm going to pick up a copy of that. That's for sure.
It's at the public library. That's where I got mine.
Nice,
Love
Joe.
the public library.
Good call on that. Joe, really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much.
As I said, sad reason to get together to discuss music, but an artist who deserves attention and has all along. It's kind of too bad that this kind of thing may make people look at her back catalog and see what amazing music she had out there.
Yeah, so well said, Joe. Thanks so much for joining me.
Okay.
Take care. We're going to leave you. That's Joe Riley, by the way, from RBC Ottawa Blues Fest. He mentioned that incredible song. It's called Take Off Your Shoes. We're going to leave you with that as we go to break.
Take off your shoes. You're on hallowed ground. Take off your shoes. You're on hallowed ground. Even you can't lie when I'm around. Take off your shoes. You're on hallowed ground. Behold on the last lamplight at the very end of your street. I'm whispering something. Come closer to me.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
That he fell.
Whoa, I'm not driving. I'm way too stoned. How are you feeling, Beer?
Oh, since we had that talk, I'm not driving tonight at all.
What about you, Dave?
You only had a couple of drinks.
And only a couple of puffs.
I don't drink and drive. No way I'm getting behind the wheel when I smoked weed, too.
How are we getting home, then?
Oh, you can drive, Dave.
Come on, Dave.
Take one for the team, buddy.
Don't let weed and alcohol influence your decision to drive.
Yeah, I need a ride.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 27th. Good afternoon. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 20 degrees in Ottawa, mostly cloudy. 21 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. OC Transpo saying they will carry out more frequent inspections on the light rail, but they're still aiming for gradual return to service by next Monday. Officials saying yesterday that 8 trains will be running with single cars only. This will also mean a change on how often trains arrive. This means a train roughly every 7 to 8 minutes. Now, replacement buses will continue running as trains gradually return to the tracks. We're expected to get another update at 4 this afternoon, which City News 1011 will carry as it happens. A second TNT supermarket coming to the city's West End next year. The store coming to Canada's Hazeldean Mall. Now, the other one is on Hunt Club Road. The CEO of TNT saying that adding a new store was an easy decision, considering that most of their online orders comes from Canada residents. Now, the store is set to open in winter of 2024. City News time, it's 12:01. Now, taking a look at your weather for today. Here's our weather specialist, Denise Andriacci.
Clearing out as we move through the rest of this afternoon. Our guaranteed high 27 feels like 35 with that humidity in most spots. We're not under any sort of heat warnings, but we're going to climb to near 30 again tomorrow, feeling like 40. So we could see heat warnings pop up. Cloudy with sunny breaks, the chance of showers and very strong storms late day Friday as well are possible. So we'll keep an eye on the radar. The guaranteed high today, 27.
Right now, 20 degrees in Ottawa, mostly cloudy. It's 21 in Smiths Falls. A day after overhauling his cabinet and making changes to most of his departments, the Prime Minister is outselling his new team to Canadians. But experts say the feds will have to prove in the weeks and months ahead that these changes are not just cosmetic. City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney joins us with the details.
The first stop on the Prime Minister's new cabinet tour is Newfoundland, where he spent time speaking about the measures the feds have taken to help Canadians and vowing to continue that work.
We need to do two things at the same time. That is, step up for families and communities and help with the high costs of living as we're building a stronger future.
But with massive changes to his team, now comes the test. Greg McEachern, a former Liberal staffer, now a principal with CAN Strategies, tells me in the months ahead, the government has to produce new policies to prove they've renewed and are taking a new approach.
The challenge with a sizable shuffle like this is you are raising expectations for yourself. So the government has to follow up to meet those expectations.
Some ministers now face tough tasks, like Sean Fraser in housing, who will have to address the crunch within the next 2 years while working with other levels of government. Both the new justice and the public safety minister will have to address violent crime as well as bail reform. And the economic ministers still have the task of trying to address the affordability crisis facing Canadians. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News Time, it's 12:04. Now, this just into City News. Ottawa police is saying a pedestrian is in critical but stable condition after being hit by a truck this morning at Bank and Lisgar. Ottawa police say that the collision happened around 10:30 this morning at Bank and Lisgar. The pedestrian is in critical but stable condition. Ottawa police not providing any other information at this time. Now, they do say that Bank is closed in both directions because of that collision. Bank closed from Lisgar to Cooper, and Lisgar also closed at O'Connor. Stay with City News for the latest on that developing story. And the Jonas Brothers coming to the Canadian Tire Centre this November.
I'm a sucker for all the subliminal things no one knows about you.
The band embarks on a global tour with 90 shows across 20 countries, including stops in the US, Europe, and of course Canada. They will be performing in Ottawa on November 29th. Tickets go on sale August 4th. City News Time, it's 12:05. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back. That is correct. This is the Sam Laprade Show, but there is no Sam. There is no Sam. Sam has been on vacation for a while now. She's taken a couple of weeks off. She'll be back next week. Derek Fage here from Rogers TV filling in for Sam. And normally at this time we have lunch with Sam. Today it is lunch with Derek and pulling a chair up to the table to dine on some great topics. I am joined by Greg McEachern, Ottawa-based consultant and Liberal strategist. Good afternoon, Greg.
How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time. And Noor Kadri, professor at the University of Ottawa, and of course ran for mayor here in the city of Ottawa during the last municipal election. Noor, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Good afternoon, Derek and Craig.
Good afternoon. Hey, listen, there's the big news we should talk about. The Jonas Brothers are coming, Greg. You heading to see the Jonas Brothers?
No.
Okay. They got some good tunes. I like some of their stuff. How about you, Noor? Heading to see the Jonas Brothers?
I'm going to join Craig on that one.
Okay. Let's talk about more important things. I love having these conversations because, I'm a bit of a political geek and junkie, as we all are here at City News, and I know that the two of you are much the same. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau dropping 7 ministers and changing nearly 3/4 of his cabinet. He unveiled a new cabinet team yesterday meant to, what is he calling it? To have a renewed focus on economic priorities such as housing. Reporters asked the Prime Minister yesterday, on a few occasions actually, whether the shakeup amounts to an admission that his nearly 8-year-old government is slumping. He responded by saying, on the contrary, which recent polls would actually argue against that because they're down by about 10 points in the latest poll. This is what he said about addressing the cost of living crisis. He says this is a difficult time right now for millions of people in Canada and around the world, and making sure that we have the best possible team aligned to respond to Canadians' challenges with the supports necessary, but also show that optimism and that ambition for getting us through these consequential times and building a brighter future for everyone. That's what we're focused on. Greg, will this make a difference?
That remains to be seen. The Abacus poll that came out yesterday and then followed by a Leger poll shows some serious distance between the Conservatives and the Liberals. And my guess is that the Liberals have internal polling that was giving them that indication, and hence a really remarkably sizable cabinet shuffle. So it has to. Derek, I think you and I are around the same age. We would have remembered TV programs in the 70s where they would try to reboot. As things went on, they would add a younger kid on the Brady Bunch or on the Cosbys. There's a challenge when you've been around for a long time. And using that pop culture reference, some shows are able to do it. And, to add characters keeps, people interested. Because people will start to tune out certain things. They'll start to turn out, even the way this government, I found, speaks about things, like they'll say a net zero world. And I'm wondering if the people I grew up with in Cape Breton know what that is. Nothing against the people I grew up with. I'm not sure that, not sure that's what. So what I've noticed is they promoted a lot of plain speaking ministers. Pascal St. Onge did an incredible job around the Hockey Canada scandal. Blunt, clear. Mark Miller, the same way about our role with Indigenous communities. Sean Fraser tells it like it is. So this is the best thing I think that they could do at this moment. I think it was good that it was sizable, and the Prime Minister, Marco Mendicino has been very loyal to them. But the last 6 months, even a year ago, big mistakes in his office. And as a result, he's no longer in cabinet. Those are the tough decisions you have to make, because it's really, really important to tell Canadians that running their government is more important than who they're friends with.
Yeah, and, Noor, I guess the one thing that stands out to me is, he's doing this so that he has different faces communicating. Wasn't happy with the way some of his ministers were communicating with Canadians. But if you're... if the number one priority is affordability and the struggles that Canadians are going through, I mean, the people that have been speaking on that is Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, and certainly yourself as Prime Minister. Those are the faces we normally see when speaking about things like the economy, like affordability, and that hasn't changed. What are your thoughts on this cabinet shuffle, Noor?
Well, this is a big bang restructuring for the government. I believe this is going to be an elections preparation cabinet, and it brought a lot of experience in terms of fixing some of the important files. And of course, there has been a lot of banging on the government backs with some of the failures. And here you go. Some ministers have been ousted. So to see some ministers who are very loyal to the Prime Minister, like Marco Mendicino, Omar Al-Gabra, and Mona Fortier, leave very important portfolios, and to bring some people around that are going to give trust and confidence in what they do. Dominique LeBlanc has been always the right hand for the Prime Minister in taking on roles for failing ministers. We've seen him to go into intergovernmental affairs to deal with issues with the provinces. Here he comes again taking on the public safety portfolio. I tend to be biased. The professors also moving to those. Anita Anand to take on the Treasury Board and fix the challenges there. Last time Greg and I we came here, we were talking about the strike and all the challenges that were happening with the unions and the pressure that Mona Fortier was getting in there. So bringing Anita Anand, she was doing great at defense, and she's a good communicator, excellent in governance. This is what the Treasury Board needs. The same thing with Jean-Yves Duclos. He took over the health file. He mainly fixed some of the major things in that during COVID. of it and beyond that, and now he's back into procurement and government services. So those are very important economic portfolios. A lot of people were thinking, for Anita and this is a demotion. I see it as a big promotion for her, just taking another portfolio and then fixing it. So those are key things. Sean Fraser, he has been very successful in what he was doing. The other important thing is this is a cabinet shuffle that want to strengthen loyalties too. So some of the big loyals to the Prime Minister, they came in. I know that from 2015, Arif Virani in Park Daylight Park in Toronto, he was recruited by Jerry Butts back then to run in that riding, and here he comes now. He's the Justice Minister, taking on a very important file. The Prime Minister is also balancing not only the regionality, but he's just going into ethnic communities that he needs their votes. They're working the data very, very well in the Prime Minister's office and in the Liberal Party.
Well, Noor, but there's no denying that he's in trouble, right? When you look at the polls, and people feel like I honestly think people feel like this government has been out of touch, especially during this affordability crisis that so many Canadians are going through. I'm just going to play a clip here from Prime Minister Trudeau just explaining the decision behind this shuffle. Let's have a listen.
This is the team that's going to continue to be there delivering for Canadians. Over the past number of weeks, I've heard directly from people who've said that the grocery rebate that landed in 11 million people's bank accounts in the first week of July made a huge difference. That the fact that the Canada Child Benefit is increased on July 20th for millions of Canadians to give them even more money every month tax-free, the high cost of raising their kids. The money's coming in from the climate action rebate across the country in more provinces before. That's money in people's pockets at a time where people are worried both about affordability and the terrible impacts of climate change that we are seeing everywhere across the country, worse than ever before.
So, Greg, my question is, you're boasting about all of those things, yet you're in a position where you're way down in the polls. People don't seem to be listening to this message, Greg.
I don't know if they're not listening to it or the message isn't even getting out.
Maybe.
Because, we had a spring sitting, late winter spring sitting, where everything was, in terms of Parliament, seemed to revolve around foreign interference. I talked to someone at a TV news network that measures, what articles do really well. They were saying the foreign interference ones weren't getting a lot of clicks. The one that did really well was how to make the most out of your grocery rebate.
Right.
But the problem for the government, because they couldn't get a handle on the foreign interference story and get ahead of it, communicate it better, all those leaks from CSIS, and again, that was Minister Menachino's responsibility. I talked to people in government, and they were frustrated because no other message was getting out. So if you can't control, what's coming in, if you're always on defense, you're never going to get your message out. So, I understand what the Prime Minister's saying there, but it's only half the story. Yes, maybe people are telling you that, but we're not talking about it because, one, it's not being communicated as best it could, or we're also, any other political story was about foreign interference. We weren't hearing anything else.
Right. No, great points. I've got a couple of other topics I want to get to before we run out of time here, but if you'll be patient with me, I need to take a quick break, gentlemen. But we'll be back with some other topics in just a moment. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
At St. John Ambulance, we're all about community. We teach life-saving skills and provide community support through our volunteer services. All St. John Ambulance product sales and training registrations support these important services. Volunteer, donate, or enroll in a program today so we can continue to have an impact on our community. Visit sja.ca to learn more. At St. John Ambulance, we do more than save lives, we change lives.
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then, the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home, but the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally, and that's when I first saw Wilf, and I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the... Whoa, what happened there? My goodness, my voice cracked. Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, filling in for Sam. It's Lunch with Derek. We're going to dive back into some topics with our guests. We're joined by Greg McEachern, Ottawa-based consultant liberal strategist, and Noor Kadri, professor at the University of Ottawa and ran for mayor in the last municipal election. Noor, I'll start with you on this next topic, and that is the LRT. The latest is that we have to replace the entire axle assemblies or hub assemblies, however you want to describe them, every 60,000 kilometers. So we've gone from inspecting them every sort of 50 to 60,000 kilometers to now completely replacing them on trains. This has gotten to a point where it's been so frustrating for commuters, for people that rely on public transit, Noor. Just, as far as, let's talk about leadership, Noor, and how do you think this new mayor, new council, there are a lot of new faces around that table, how do you think they've done as far as, leadership and explaining to residents what's happening and why it's happening?
Well, just like the federal government, there is a big challenge when it comes to the communication on that file, and they're not instilling trust with the public. I don't want to take any cheap shots at the current mayor and leaderships, because this is not their problem. They inherited this from the previous administration. But what we've seen is that they're just taking everything as is. It's almost the same team that led this under Mayor Jim Watson, to the extent that a lot of people were saying that Mark Sutcliffe is Jim Watson 2.0, and we haven't seen change from that perspective. At the time when, for instance, all the Liberal MPs supported this current mayor took the federal government to court when he had access and he could influence the government to give him any money that was underpaid for taxes. Yet he settled with RTG Group, and with that you smell corruption. There is big corruption in the LRT file. It happened in phase 1. It's happening in phase 2. And it's no surprise that Doug Ford said that there's no money for phase 3 until those other 2 phases are fixed.
Yeah. No, I mean, not only did Premier Ford say that, but Mayor Sutcliffe said the same thing. We've heard that from a few councillors, and I think that's reasonable. Do you think it's reasonable, Greg, to hold off until we make sure we get this fixed?
Yeah, because, a couple of weeks ago on the show, I had mentioned that I was seeing people on social media say, rip it up. And we kind of all laughed and, how extreme was that? And now you see that more and more kind of in the conversations around it, which is quite frightening. I mean, this is so frustrating. And, I go back to when it was revealed there was a WhatsApp chat with, the lead bureaucrat, Mayor Watson, Councillor Hubley, and they knew of things and were keeping them from the public and not even sharing them with other councillors. And you had people that are now on council still that were defending this, and their fellow councillor and the mayor they were supporting at the time was keeping them, I assume, in the dark. And it kind of, I wonder, is there just a big shrug in Ottawa now that we don't care about this anymore? I saw a media report this morning that the parking lots downtown are full again.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And the whole point of the LRT was convenient and supposed to be good for the environment. So that's out the window. And after a while, if you've had to resort to buying a car, used car, if you can find one, you're not going to go back to the LRT. If you can't count on something, you're not going to make plans about it. Derek, the last time you and I talked about this, I said I used it twice a day during Blues Fest.
Yes,
and
that's right.
I had made a joke on Twitter. Maybe we used it and we broke it. Well, apparently that's one of the things under consideration.
It's possible. Yeah,
it's possible. Like, what did we buy here? This is crazy.
Yeah. I just want to get to the last topic here very quickly, because this was pretty phenomenal to watch yesterday. The U.S. Congress held a public hearing on claims the government was concealing a long-standing program that retrieves and reverse engineers unidentified flying objects. They call them UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. 3 retired military veterans testified on Wednesday before a House Oversight Subcommittee. One of those people was retired Major David Grush. He had some really interesting things to say. He said, I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program to which I was denied access. When asked whether the U.S. government had information about extraterrestrial life, Grush said that the U.S. likely has been aware of non-human activity since the 1930s. You had a couple of pilots that said they have seen UFOs and, are confirming. Noor, do you believe in UFOs, aliens? What do you make of what we heard from this hearing?
Well, there is a lot of science that is advanced beyond us, and of course, we're discovering things in the deep seas and on other planets. I still believe that there would be life in some other planet, and there could be maybe not people. It could be other types of aliens that they're much more advanced. So transparency when it comes to government on these things is very important. It's not only important on light rail; it's important on every factor of science. And to withhold information for tens of years by governments is something that I believe is still unethical on all fronts.
Greg, last word on this topic for you. What do you think about what you heard yesterday?
It was pretty stunning. I had to stop and for a second and say, is this for real?
Yeah.
I mean, those of us who grew up in the 70s, there was Project Blue Book. There's even Jimmy Carter, before he was president, with a group of people, said that he saw a UFO. I mean, if I was president, first thing I would have done was ask for that file.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Well, and I've had friends over the years that are convinced that they saw a UFO while driving down the parkway. It just, I agree with you, Noor.
There can't be that many weather balloons.
Yeah, well, and I agree with Noor. I'm not sure what other life forms are out there in the universe. I'm not ready to say there are human-like life forms, but I think it's almost a guarantee there are other types of life forms in this huge universe, right, that we find ourselves in. I mean, I would be surprised if anyone could deny that, right? Because the universe is just so big. Anyway, I've run out of time. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate the time today. Have a great rest of the day and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Derek. Thanks for lunch.
You're very welcome. Thank you. That is Greg McEachern, Ottawa-based consultant and Liberal strategist, and Noor Qadri, professor at the University of Ottawa, and also ran for mayor in the last municipal election, was a candidate there. All right, more to come. Derek Fage here, filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Hey everybody, my name is Karen. I'm here with my best friends Shane and Monique. Join us on Rogers TV for Fitness Faction. Every week we're going to take you through a full body workout. We've got strength training, we've got cardio, we've got HIIT. Ladies, let's get back into it.
I think we've got 10 more skaters. Let's go.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 27th. Good afternoon. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 22 degrees in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, 21 in Smith Falls. Here's what's making news right now. Polls are open today from 9 to 9 p.m. in the Canada-Carleton by-election. Voters will be electing a new member to the provincial legislature after Marilee Fullerton abruptly resigned in March. 6 candidates are in the running, and a full story up on our site at ottawa.citynews.ca. A pedestrian remains in critical but stable condition after a collision with a truck this morning. Ottawa police told City News the collision took place at 10:30 at Bank and Lisgar. The roads around Bank were closed in both directions but have since reopened. And another TNT supermarket coming to Canada next winter. The new store will be opening in the Hazeldean Mall, which is set to open in late 2024. Now, TNT's CEO saying that opening a new location was an easy decision considering how busy the other one is, especially on weekends. Now, this will be the second store in the nation's capital. City News Time, it's 12:33. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista for news anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Business Lunch on City News, brought to you by the Ottawa Business Journal.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. It is time for your Ottawa Business Journal lunch. The Business Lunch. What has been going on down on Bank Street? We wanted to catch up with an old friend of mine, as a matter of fact, former city councillor, executive director of the Bank Street BIA, Christine Ledman. Christine, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Derek.
How are you?
I'm well. Busy, of course.
I can imagine. Yeah. And I think the unfortunate thing we're going to be talking about is it hasn't been as busy as hoped down in your area on Bank Street.
That's correct. It's been a little quiet, but I mean, we do expect some quiet time in the summer, but not as quiet as this.
Yeah, what are you hearing from businesses in the downtown Bank Street area?
Well, I mean, concerns about the lack of foot traffic, impacts of construction, because, I mean, the traffic getting into town can be daunting at times. And road closures just happen, pop up, and you're not unexpected. So it becomes a deterrent. Transit, of course, when you have already reduced work days, not reduced work days, but hybrid work days,
right?
For the federal government. Then you have a transit system that's not working properly, which then sort of elevates, well, I guess we'll just work from home until that's settled. So we're seeing impacts from all sides. And of course, there's other issues that we, hearing about safety and cleanliness. So these are things that we continue to work on.
Yeah, Christine, let's talk about safety. That's a particular concern in some various areas, right? Think of the Byward Market in Lower Town, certainly in your area as well. What safety issues have you been hearing about?
Well, I think it's more the concerns that people are seeing the unhoused. They're seeing, open drug use, people sleeping in doorways, this type of thing. And it's a spreading issue. So as you've noted, Derek, Lower Town, Byward, Downtown Rideau, it's just going to continue to expand beyond our own boundaries and into different areas as well. I mean, these are problems that we're seeing across the city, but it's very centralized in the core due to all the services being sort of, intensified down here. That's basically what's happening. And so, again, it is being able to provide services beyond the core that needs to happen to able to service people within their own communities so they don't have to leave their communities. And sometimes it's better and safer if they don't come into the core where you get this culmination of all these characters, who can impact, whether that person is going to move forward or be pulled even further backwards. We have predators who prey on these people, the drug dealers, who are just waiting at, around the corner for them. Right. So it doesn't help, that we see this on the street, and it makes people feel very uncomfortable. And safety can be just unpredictability depending on the street drug that they happen to be, injecting or using. So again, it is the drug supply that is a huge issue. The lack of resources in terms of supports, housing, mental health, and drug addiction supports, and also, police being underfunded in order to to even focus on the real important issues and being told, to deal with, somebody here on the street when they're very ill-equipped to deal with it. So
yeah, I mean, there's. I guess I'm encouraged that there's been conversation on City Council to get more of those social services to take care of some of those mental health issues that you touched on. I mean, we had Sylvie Bigra, president of the Lower Town Community Association, and she touched on something you said, is the fact that most of those resources available are contained, right, in such a small area. And, she recommends we should be spreading them out. It seems to be falling on deaf ears. I know you can't just do it tomorrow, but I just don't see a lot of conversation necessarily happening around the council table when it comes to trying to deal with that. I know funding is an issue from the province. There's a lot of things to look at for sure, but that is something that we need to tackle sooner rather than later.
That's right. And the thing is if you're not talking about it all the time, it's not going to be addressed. It's just this assumption that, okay, well, we're trying this or we're going to do this in the new year, so we're not going to talk about it anymore. But that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
It needs to be talked about every day because there are people in the higher levels of government that need to hear this day in and day out. And when you look at the situation in Toronto and how quickly they moved on certain things, it just makes you, yes, it can be done. But if we're not pushing from this perspective, from our own city, from our own city councillors, then we're not going to get the recognition and the need for the needs that we do have. So, of course, Ottawa is certainly not on the good books with, our provincial government.
I think it's getting
We're not
better.
The favorites.
I agree. I guess I'm encouraged that the relationship between Premier Ford and Mayor Sutcliffe seems to be a fairly good relationship, but you're right. It's like we've had to go begging and pleading for anything so far. I'm just hoping that relationship continues to be at least an open conversation where we can, get a little more of what we deserve in this city. I mean, we're a city of 1 million people now, and I don't think we're being treated as such.
No, exactly. And I also think that this is a conversation, though, surprisingly, that affects a lot of communities in Ontario.
Yes.
And not just the big cities. The small cities are suffering quite a bit as well. And I think that, there has to be this action plan put in place to address the problem. You can't just, and I'm tired of talking about things.
Yeah, no, I get you. And I'm tired of even, the prospect of, more policing and more mental health services. All we do is talk about it.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
we're not getting anywhere. I just want to remind everyone, we're speaking to Christine Ledman, the executive director of the Bank Street BIA. I was reading the article in the Ottawa Business Journal. It quotes you on a couple of occasions. One thing that you're saying is that many local businesses, barely any tourist traffic. Any idea why that is the case?
We just haven't seen it happening here, and I don't know if it's the staycation kind of environment that is being promoted through the province, but people are choosing to go to other areas of Ontario. The heat might be another problem where people might choose to go to, something where they're by a cottage or, more access to water, where they can actually get in it. So I think that, I don't know, it's a tough one, Derek. We don't have the full numbers, and it would be interesting to hear from the hotel industry, how they're doing.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen any uptick in that area at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let's try to get people out there. Let's talk about that area and what makes it great and all the offerings that are available in the area.
Well, exactly. And we have Pride Month, just around the corner. So I'm hoping, we have our Pride banners up, and we work with Capital Pride quite closely. So we're looking forward to this year's rendition.
Yeah, and let's talk about some of the businesses. There's a great mix of shops and restaurants and various retail businesses, food and grocery services. I mean, it's a great spot for people to go down, and you can spend, pretty much the entire day going down there. Let's pump up the area and tell everybody what's available.
That's right. I mean, we all know what great restaurants that we have, in the core anyway. But we do have some really unique and interesting stores. We have Midori and Beat It Dreams and Planet Botanics. I mean, we could go on and on. Great little, fun little spots. Gung Bao, these really cool like buns that they're to die for.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, fantastic spot.
Yes, a fantastic spot. So the thing is that exploring those things. We do have our Taste Ottawa site as well that offers different restaurants, even just across the city, never mind just in the core, but it is a great resource, to locate those businesses in, those restaurants in our area as well. And it does give all the information. It's a one-stop shop for that. But, there's a lot happening, really. I mean, we are looking to redirect our energies and look at what we need to do right here. Events are great, and they do attract, for a weekend or for a time. But what we're looking for is more, ongoing elements that will keep people coming to Bank Street.
Yeah.
And I think we have enough festivals in and around the city to keep us busy, and even in the core. I mean, we have great festivals in the core. So, I think there is a lot that, people can enjoy and explore and really discover in the Centertown area. There are a lot of great places, stores, restaurants, etc. I think that people would have a great time down here.
Christine, are you part of the conversation in that area about this downtown revitalization? Are you encouraged that because, so much attention gets put on, of course, the Byward Market and Spark Street struggles, people looking ahead to LeBreton Flats. Are you encouraged that you're part of this revitalization conversation?
Yes, we are part of the revitalization team, that our MP had started. These are conversations, that are ongoing that, yes, we're very, very much a big part of that. Even with ourselves, with our rebranding that we're going to be going through over the next few months, an expansion of our BIA boundaries, working with the Spark Street BIA as well, and the Somerset Village BIA. So there's a lot going on. And I think, the way I look at it, there are always going to be these ebbs and flows. And I think that when we address the issues, we will see that momentum shift again. Right. So that's I'm always optimistic, and I know that people want to continue to see a strong core for the city because it's important for everybody. So I think that we'll see that shift happening.
Yeah, we want to see more flows than ebbs, that's for sure.
That's right.
Christine, really appreciate the time. So nice to catch up with you.
Same here, Derek. Take care.
All right. Thanks, you as well. That's Christine Ledman, Executive Director of the Bank Street BIA. Going to introduce you to just a fantastic success story, a young entrepreneur joining us after the break. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
This is a perfectly healthy child. What's unhealthy are birth alerts, a racist practice that may stop this Indigenous mother from going home with her newborn. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Today, I helped a parent feed their family by connecting them to a food program.
Today, I helped someone connect with mental health supports.
Today, I helped a couple struggling to pay their bills access financial aid.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Excited to talk to my next guest. I've had her on Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV. She'll actually be a guest next Friday, and she'll be demonstrating a recipe using some of her fabulous spices, which I must say I have tried 3 of those spices myself, and they're all excellent. Here to tell us about the amazing success she's had so far and her inspiration behind it is the founder of Spice Girls, Lily Bond. Good afternoon, Lily.
Hey, how are you? Happy to talk to you again.
Oh, great to talk to you. As I said, what a great success story. Before we get to the latest news, and you and I have talked about this before, I just want to go back to talking about, the launch of Spice Girls. I think you were 13 years old at the time. Tell our listeners where this idea and concept came from, Lily.
Sure. So I started, I was saving up to buy a computer for school. But, being 13, I've been always really into food. We've always made everything from scratch at home. And I was really frustrated with the lack of spice options in the grocery stores. They were either all super bland tasting or they're way too salty, had a lot of preservatives in them. And I thought, you know what? I want to reinvent Taco Tuesday. I'm going to start my own business. And so I started with taco seasoning, and I started selling it at the farmers markets. And eventually it started to grow a cult following. People loved it. They were using it on everything, not just for tacos. And so I was growing my line. I was getting into grocery stores. I bought myself that laptop, and now we've got over 8 different blends, and you can now find us at Farm Boy.
Amazing. Yeah, that to me is what just blew me away. That, getting in, I don't think people understand, getting into a grocery store is incredibly difficult, and it can be very complicated. How did that come about?
Yeah, the process was a lot longer than I thought. So it was amazing. It, came through a LinkedIn connection, which was, the power of LinkedIn is amazing.
Yeah.
I'd had Farm Boy on my radar for a long time, just because I know they're the perfect fit for our products. And so, when we connected and they brought me in and we were chatting about what we were going to do, it was a process of I redesigned my packaging. I was getting my products tested in labs. It was it was crazy finding pallets, wrapping them.
Wow.
It was my biggest order ever to manufacture. So that was a process, hiring people. So we've scaled very quickly in the past few months.
You mentioned, Lily, it was the perfect fit for Farm Boy. Why do you feel that?
Yeah, well, one thing that I always noticed when I was, walking around, I was selling, at farmers markets, was everybody had these little Farm Boy bags. And of course, I've been a Farm Boy customer for years, but just knowing that, we fit right in their demographic. So that's what I've always felt. We're all about the food. They're all about the food. It's a perfect match.
I love it. Well said. Well said. Let's talk about, you mentioned you've got 8 spice blends now. Walk us through the entire menu that you offer now.
Okay, so we're going to start out with the taco seasoning, of course. That was the original, but it's not just for tacos. It's for burgers. It's for dips. It's for chicken. I use it on corn on the cob, since corn season's coming soon. It's amazing.
Oh, nice.
I know. And then smoke and habanero barbecue rub. That one's very popular right now. It's a little sweet, little smoky, little spicy. I actually put this one on French fries. So, barbecue rub usually comes with grilled meats, but I put it on everything. My pizzazz seasoning, Derek, that you renamed. You were the winner of our renaming contest for pizza seasoning.
That's amazing. I can't believe
that. We put it on vegetables. We put it on pizza, of course, pasta, any kind of savory dish. It just adds a little pizzazz to whatever we're making. And then, of course, our everything bagel seasoning. Everybody loves everything bagel. I put it on avocados. I put it on salads. I put it on salmon. We've also got a great dip mix as well.
Yeah.
I put it on rice, actually, the rice seasoning or Herbalicious dip mix. It's fantastic on salmon, very tarragon and dill forward. And then, of course, I know you like our Sunday dinner seasoning. That was the one that we tried on Rogers, Daytime Ottawa. It's the rosemary, it's the sage, it's the thyme. And so what you tried was we mixed it in with olive oil and butter on roasted potatoes, and it changes your life.
Honestly, I'm telling everybody, listen, everyone listening, like you open up that Sunday dinner seasoning and it smells like turkey dinner.
It does.
It's incredible. No, I mean it. Like I was just so shocked. Like every time I would use it, if there was somebody new in the kitchen, like a friend was over, my mom was over, I would say, smell this. And they would smell and say, what does it smell like? And every single one of them came up with the same thing. It's turkey dinner.
Well, that's my goal. That was what inspired it. And originally I was thinking, maybe I should just carry it around, turkey dinner time. But I was at the farmers market. People were very upset that I wasn't carrying it year round. They were like, "Where's the Sunday dinner?" So it's a year-round spice, people. I carry it all the time. And then, of course, last but not least, we have our Caesar rimmer. It's inspired by my Uncle Dave, who lives in BC. It's called Uncle Dave's Caesar rimmer. He is known for his legendary Caesars, great Canadian cocktail. And I wanted a better version that was, more balanced in flavor, still had the salt and the celery, but you got a little Korean pepper, you got a little paprika, onion powder, a bunch of other different spices that really make it something special.
And you're 19 now, so you can actually try one of his famous Caesars.
Exactly.
Right?
There you go. I can enjoy the real Caesar.
What's next for you? Are you continuing to come up with different ideas? Tell me what the future holds.
I am. So I've got a blend in the works. You know what? I'll let the listeners know which one's next. We're coming out with a Greek seasoning.
Okay.
It's called Theo the Greek seasoning, and it's inspired by my lovely Greek neighbors that I grew up with. Their dad Theo makes the best food I've ever had. He makes this Greek souvlaki pita and fries, and it's mind blowing. So they were kind of like my family growing up, and I wanted a blend that kind of pays homage to my childhood of this great Greek food. So that one will be coming out in the next few weeks. So people get excited. It's coming out, and then of course we've got some more stuff coming for fall. But That's the next one people can expect.
I read the Ottawa Business Journal article on you earlier today.
Oh.
And this I just want people to understand what a success story this is. It says in just to as they're wrapping up, they say, considering both this contract and potential future ones, you predict Spice Girls will break $500,000 in revenue this fiscal year and possibly hit $1 million in sales the following year. That is incredible, Lily.
That's the plan. That's the plan. Working hard. Getting those contracts is key. So really, this was kind of, with things were going well with Farm Boy. Then I've got a few other people a few other chains that were saying, hey, if things are going well, like we'll jump on board. And things are going well. And that's it. So we're excited. It's going to happen.
Amazing. And you know what? The other beauty is you're such a great person. I've met your mom as well. Your mom is such a wonder. It's great to see good things happen to good people. So congratulations on all your success so far. And I will see you next Friday on Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, and we'll prepare a couple of recipes together, right?
I'm beyond excited. I'm so excited to get back with you. We're going to get in the kitchen. I've got some ideas, so I'm super pumped.
Right on. Looking forward to it. Lily, congratulations again, and I'll see you in just over a week.
All right. See you soon, Derek.
All
Bye.
right. Take care. Bye-bye. That's Lily Bond, founder of Spice Girls, an Ottawa success story. Head over to obj.ca to read that entire article, on what a great success it's been. I mean, starting at the age of 13 and where she is now at the age of 19, 6 years later. Unbelievable. That does it for me.